Ubisoft executives are panicking after investors ask some actual tough questions of them regarding the potential sales opportunities for Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws. The responses from Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot and their CFO, what is his name here? Frédérick Duguet, were extremely evasive, and investors, I don't think, were having anything of it as the stock price plummeted following their most recent sales report. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Also, hit that like button. Let's beat the YouTube algorithm, get more people to watch this video. So I wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com, and they had an initial sales report for their Q1 fiscal year 2024, which is basically April through June. So April, May, and June through the end of June. And they actually reported that they had net bookings of 290 million euros for that first quarter. And they also reported, though, that they're only expecting 500 million euros for its second quarter, which is not a lot. And Barclays' Nick Dempsey questioned that low prediction in a Q&A session during the company's sales call. This is what he asked. When I look at the guidance for Q2, and if I assume something similar for back catalog in Q2 as Q1, kind of getting to 200 to 230 million euros, that sort of range. For the new release of Star Wars Outlaws, when I look at the $70 price, and then assuming what you might get from it, I'm getting to around 5 million units, something in that sort of bracket. First of all, where could I be going wrong with that thinking? Secondly, are you just being pretty conservative in your guidance? Because I guess given the interest in that game, we might have thought it would be more than 5 million units. So I will have to be remiss. They talk about how there's like all this positive energy. There's all of this interest in the game. They're literally trying to sell this game up throughout their presentation that they give before they open it up to investors in this Q&A. So Dempsey was like, what's going on? You're saying all this is doing good, but my calculations here aren't really adding up. But not only would he question the sales figures for Star Wars Outlaws or the potential sales figures for Star Wars Outlaws, he also questioned the potential for Assassin's Creed Shadows. He says, when I look at the second half, clearly, I think we are going to need a heavy contribution from Assassin's Creed, but could it be those revenues would in fact be bolstered by multiple hundreds of millions in partnership deals? That kind of range to get us over the line. So this is what Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot responded. Specifically to the first question, he says, we can't comment on the very numbers you are quoting, but what we have factored in is a strong launch for Star Wars Outlaws that reflects the fact that it is among the most awaited games of the industry this year and a really strong positive community sentiment. They'll say this a bunch of times. This is like a narrative that they were clearly talked about. Clearly, we're ready for these types of questions. And so they would roll this out in a number of responses here. But I don't think these investors are really buying it. To me, it's very evasive, not really answering the question. You clearly have pre-order data. You have internal tracking numbers that can show you kind of where this game is going to land. We see this all the time when we're looking at potential box office grosses and things like that, where they actually do indeed factor in pre-sales, etc., to try and get to a prediction. And more often than not, a lot of times these predictions are pretty accurate. Sometimes they're way off, but a lot of times, more times than not, they're pretty good. Nevertheless, Guillemot went on and said, and also the fact that we are coming with the biggest marketing campaign ever so far for Ubisoft game. So that's what we've been factoring in the second quarter. So that is big news. Star Wars Outlaws has the biggest marketing campaign ever for an Ubisoft game. So they're spending a lot of money to try and market this game. And we're having questions on whether or not they're actually going to sell enough product from their investors. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Just blowing money away on their marketing campaign is what it looks like. Trying to cover it up. As for the other question, this is what how Guillemot responded. As we mentioned, we expect Shadows to be the most ambitious title of the series. We also anticipate that Star Wars, that is usually a very strong brand around Christmas, should do very well with the busy season with a strong impact. Also from, and I couldn't understand what he was saying here. It starts with a P, but I wrote it inaudible because I just really couldn't make it out. Content from both games. And also we expect further growth from Rainbow Six Siege, as well as a strong impact of Shadows on the back catalog of Assassin's Creed, plus the contribution of X Defiant. So they think when they release Assassin's Creed Shadows, people are going to go back and play other Assassin's Creed and purchase those games and play those games. Dempsey then actually got to ask a follow-up, and he says, when you talk about it being the most ambitious, so specifically talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows here, are you hoping for it to be the best-selling Assassin's Creed game? So he is putting their feet to the fire here, right? And this is what Guillemot said. At this time, we can say we expect Assassin's Creed to be among the high sellers of the company so far. Not the best. Not the best. Does not look like it is going to do better than Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That's what that tells me. It does not look like it's going to be at the top of the Assassin's Creed heap. They are saying it's going to be the high sellers, but clearly not the best-selling Assassin's Creed game at all. And that, I think, is very, very telling that the backlash that this game is receiving from Japanese players, as well as people in the West, is affecting this game's marketability. And so you can actually go back and look at what Assassin's Creed Valhalla did. We don't have the specific numbers for what it did in its first quarter that it was released, but Ubisoft did report that it had net bookings of over €1 billion during the company's third quarter of 2021 when it released Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Just Dance 2021, Watch Dogs Legion, and Immortals Phoenix Rising. There are a couple other games in there as well, a lot smaller games. But one would assume that Assassin's Creed Valhalla made up a significant chunk of those net bookings. And so that's why maybe that €500 million looks so small when you're having a game that is having this biggest marketing budget behind it ever, when we're talking about Star Wars Outlaws here. And that's why investors are questioning whether or not it's just really conservative. Like, what's going on here? That does not seem like a lot when you're looking at 1 billion just a couple years ago when you released Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And then if you want to even go further, a year after Assassin's Creed Valhalla had been released, it actually surpassed 1 billion in sales by itself. That was confirmed by Guillemot back in December 2021. So, not looking good at all. Not looking good at all. And it didn't get any better because later in the Q&A, we had an investor from HSBC. He asked about how pre-orders for both Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows compared to previous Ubisoft releases. We get another non-answer. This is what Guillemot said. We don't disclose nor comment pre-orders usually. What we can say, what we've been observing and measuring, is that our big titles actually are among the most awaited games of the industry, and they enjoy very strong positive community sentiment overall. Again, that is the narrative that they're going with. He's repeated it a number of times now. Very strong, positive community sentiment. What? Have you been paying attention to YouTube? Have you been paying attention to the Steam forums? Have you been paying attention to X? Have you been paying attention to Facebook? The sentiment is negative. Assassin's Creed Shadows has the worst rated trailer. It has the most disliked trailer of all Assassin's Creed trailers ever on YouTube. The sentiment is not positive. It is overwhelmingly negative. You're literally releasing apologies to the Japanese people because you lied to them. And in your apology, you are gaslighting the Japanese. It's utterly sick. So you are lying to your investors here. There is no strong, positive community sentiment. And this is all narrative spin, and the investors saw straight through you. You didn't even answer the question. You could have said pre-orders are doing really well, but the fact that you did not say that indicates that the pre-orders are not doing well. It's what he didn't say, right? Because if it was doing really well, they would have been bragging about it, because what did they do? They bragged about Assassin's Creed Valhalla having 1 billion in sales a year after the game or released. They were bragging about that. That's from Ubisoft. Ubisoft is telling Axios, Eurogamer reporting on Axios' report here, but they're bragging about it. So if it was actually doing really well, you know for sure they would be bragging about it. But that's not what they're doing here. They don't even want to answer any of these questions because these pre-order sales are probably not good at all. Not good at all. We got another investor from Bank of America questioned Ubisoft's narrative that Star Wars Outlaws was getting positive feedback and pointed to a recent preview that Ubisoft released of the game that received numerous negative opinions regarding the game's graphics and AI detection. And this investor actually asked if the release date was confirmed due to the negative feedback and if they would be changing it to try and clean it up because it was so bad. It was getting such negative opinions on it. And Ubisoft is like, nah. This is what Guillemot said. The game has gone gold, so the date is well confirmed for August 13th. And as you mentioned, we'll be showcasing more content of a very high quality, multiple hours that will really show the depths of the open world. That is a key element of the promise to enjoy the exploration of the galaxy and with multiple planets. So that will bode well for the game in terms of high quality delivery. The company CFO Duguet, Frédérick Duguet, added this. We've said also for Star Wars, the level of quality, the world, and the experience, it's really very high. We are really leveraging our engine, and I think people will love it. Clearly not. People are watching your previews, and they think it sucks. They think it's terrible. This guy's literally asking them about this, and these people are like, "Oh, it's high quality. It's high quality. Don't believe your lying eyes. We've really got a high quality product here." No, it's garbage, and people see that. It looks terrible. So as I said, investors were not buying what Guillemot and Duguet were trying to sell, what Ubisoft is trying to sell. Stock plummeted over 10% in the last 5 days. I think this call was conducted on the 18th, so just 5 days ago. You can see huge drop there off a cliff in this image right here. So I think that both of these games are in dire straits, and Ubisoft has no one to blame but themselves. They fully embraced the DEI woke agenda with both of these games, and they're going to pay for it. They are going to pay for it. And this could potentially, I think, really impact this company. It could destroy the company. We could be seeing Ubisoft be parceled out in the near term, depending on just how awful these games perform. And I think that's really the question we're asking now, is not how well will they perform, it's just how bad will they perform. And I think Guillemot and Duguet clearly know that these games are not going to do very well. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.